This Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you this morning. We're talking about being part of a local church or a local organization where a church member comes and they get together and they meet and they worship together and they follow the teaching of the Bible in that church. Now, I believe and know for a fact that when a man asks Jesus Christ to come into his heart, he takes the Spirit of God into his body, and he then becomes a living soul unto God. Now, was he living before he asked Jesus to come into his heart? He was alive in the body. He was alive in the flesh. But his soul was doomed to hell forever and death forever. So when Adam in the Garden of Eden, years and years ago, sinned, he killed the soul of man. And how did he do that? He separated the soul of man from the soul of God. God said, let us make man in our own image. How were we in the image of God? We were in the image of God in body and in soul and in spirit. How can you say, Brother Peter, why weren't we just in the image of God in spirit and soul? Well, we were. But he also gave us a body. Now, the likeness of that body was Jesus Christ came. And when he came in the flesh, in his body, he came like men, like a man. He could be in a crowd and be mingle in a crowd, and you couldn't pick him out from anybody else. He didn't have a shining light around his head. He didn't have a halo on. He didn't have a glorious appearance. He appeared just like any other man. When he worked in the carpenter shop when he was a boy with his father, he didn't appear any different than any other boy. He appeared the same way. When he was 12 years old, he went into the temple and he taught in the temple and astounded those men for what he knew, because he was the Son of God. He knew everything those men had ever studied or learned. He was everything, because in the beginning he was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, which was Jesus Christ. You say, I do not understand that, Brother Peter. Neither do I. But I know that he was. You know, I have no idea before this was a plastic bottle what it looked like. Now that it looks like a plastic bottle, I say that is a plastic bottle. Where did it come from? Well, somebody made it, but what did they make it out of and what did they make it with? What was its original state? I've seen barrels and barrels and barrels and barrels before, and bags of little plastic droplets, little round droplet, tidbit droplets of plastic, what they make these bottles out of. But before they were those little droplets, they were something, and to be made into plastic, and now they're plastic. I see it and I know it, but that's like the Lord coming. You don't know what he looked like originally. You don't really know. We don't know what Adam looked like originally, but we know that he looks somewhat like we do now, because everybody is after their own seed. We're all after our own seed. We didn't change or evolve from a monkey to a man. Contrary to many of the teachings of today, evolution is not a fact. It is still a theory of man that is incorrect. It is an incorrect theory of man. You can draw all kinds of conclusions from the Bible. There are positives and there are negatives in the Bible. For every positive in the Bible, there is a negative. But to try to draw a conclusion from evolution, there is no end. There is no positive and negative. And by the way, what I can't understand, if that were the case, why did it stop? And when it stopped, how did man keep making man without man evoluting into something else? If he evoluted into this, what we are today, and then you say, well, he stopped evoluting and he's going to just get smarter. Well, that makes you thinking, your thinking, very adverse and very incorrect. I would say dumb, but I don't want to call anybody dumb, but that is dumb thinking. All right. Now we are body, soul, and we are spirit, and now we have been saved. Ask Jesus to come in the heart and save our soul. Now we're in a church. Now we're waiting for something. We're waiting for Jesus to come. And while we're waiting, we're watching. And we're watching for Jesus to come. But Paul the Apostle said to the Thessalonians, while you're waiting and while you're watching, you must be working. You must be doing something. You must be leading others to the Lord so they can watch and wait. Our duty as a Christian is to make other Christians. An apple tree grows other apples. Orange tree grows other oranges. Grapefruit tree grows other grapefruit. Lemon tree grows other lemons. And a Christian grows other Christians. So our job is to grow other Christians. When a new convert comes in the church, help grow that convert into a place of patience, of peace, of love, of joy, of long-suffering, of temperance, of meekness, mildness, forgiving and forgetting, and not paying attention to those things that are above him or have nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with you, what Susie Q is doing over here. It has nothing to do with you, what John Doe is doing over there. You have a path. You walk in that path. You perform what God would have you do and forget everybody else. You'll have a happy church. You'll have a happy people. You'll be happy yourself. If you all the time try to stick your nose in somebody else's business and be concerned about somebody else, you can't take care of what God's got for you. Now, Paul says in Thessalonians, while you're watching and you're waiting for Jesus to come in the cloud with a shout and of an archangel, before that, a little ways before that, he said, I would not have you ignorant, brother. But the fact is that those that have gone on before you, are asleep. Those that are saved and they're gone on before you, they're just asleep. And while they're sleeping, there's going to come a day and there's going to be a great shout, and God's going to come in the clouds, and those that are sleeping are going to come out of the grave first, and they're going to rise and go to heaven, and then you're going to follow up right behind them. And it's not needed to be said here, but I'll say it. A lady asked a preacher one time, why do the dead rise first? And he said, the preacher said, well, that's very simple. They got further to travel. Well, they're 6 feet under, so they do have a little further to travel. But the dead that are in the grave, those who are in the grave now are going to raise first. They're only dead in the flesh. They're not dead in the spirit and the soul. They're alive in the spirit and the soul, but they're dead in the flesh. And the flesh is going to be raised again